We've already done several videos on Trevor Henderson's Monsters. I sound really tired because I just woke up, but I just couldn't help thinking to myself, as I do with most movies and monster lore. And as I was thinking about it, I wondered to myself what would happen if Trevor Henderson's Monsters were translated or if they teleported to end up in Godzilla's universe. Even for those who are not fans of the franchise, everyone knows who and what Godzilla is. From the 2014 movie Godzilla, we've gotten a different iteration of Godzilla where he is very animal-like, very large, very hard to kill, as were his predecessors. They're now dubbed Titans, and so are all of the other creatures that fly and fight alongside Godzilla or even against him. Apparently there are a lot of these creatures, more so than ever imagined, because they come from a land called the Hollow Earth, and they've explored this in several other movies and mediums as well. It's basically the theory that there are hollow pockets within the planet Earth that hold completely different worlds with totally different fauna that evolved separately from the creatures on the surface, like us. I mean, we have pteranodons that can sleep within the magma of volcanoes. We have dragon-like creatures that can breathe radiation from out of their mouth like fire. We have long squid-like things with crab legs that can also freeze over entire environments. A lot of these creatures possess the ability to regenerate and do a slew of other abilities that don't seem possible for any other creature on the planet. It's fair to say that they're pretty strange, but strange is kind of an overstatement when you take a look at Trevor Henderson's Monsters. Creatures that exist on different planes of reality, creatures that defy logic, monsters that should not exist, that are capable of doing things that normal creatures would not be able to do, even though a lot of them resemble normal creatures like humans and rabbits, etc. Many of them, I guess you can say, are quite supernatural. But then again, so are things that we don't understand, like Godzilla. When he refuses to die, we think he's a god, which I imagine to us he is, because he does things that we are not used to seeing. But it makes sense, right? Creatures that didn't live alongside us are going to be drastically different. And my voice will get higher and more loud as the video goes on, because that's what happens when I wake up and I start talking. Okay, so let's translate Trevor Henderson's Monsters into the Monsterverse, or Godzilla's universe. The first thing that would happen is that the Titans really wouldn't even notice this, because, let's face it, the Titans are called that way for a reason. They are monstrous, like colossal. From the 2019 movie, Godzilla was 393 feet tall. That's almost 400 feet tall, and he weighs just about 100,000 tons. There are monsters like Methuselah that are said to be even heavier than he is, and I'm pretty sure a lot of Titans that we don't know of that are much larger as well. Since a lot of Trevor Henderson's monsters seem to target humans for some reason, the Titans, Godzilla and his friends, probably wouldn't even know of their existence. And I don't think it really would mean anything, because even if something like Siren Head or Big Charlie or one of those other monsters were to show up in front of Godzilla's doorstep, he's not their target, and Godzilla wouldn't see them as a threat. At the least, he would just bend down and see, what the fuck kind of human is that? And he would go on his merry way. The Titans don't really respond to anything that is not a threat to them. I mean, a lot of us like to think that Godzilla's our hero and he cares about us, but that's not really the truth, even though he is a total badass. And honestly, that makes me respect him more. Think about how many threats humans face all the time, and Godzilla doesn't care. The only time Godzilla or other kaijus would care is if something is actively a threat to their territory, meaning another large creature that could potentially kill Godzilla. What happened when the Mutos came along? They were trying to breed, and they're part of a species that had killed off a lot of Godzilla's family. Their relationship is basically akin to the mongoose versus cobra relationship, or snake versus mongoose, where they are both each other's predators and prey. Same thing with Ghidorah. He was trying to control all the Titans, this three-headed dragon that wasn't even from Earth. Godzilla wasn't okay with that because, number one, this thing can kill him. Number two, the planet Earth is his territory, or at least he seems to think so, and he is going to fight for it if something else poses a threat. Something like Siren Head walking below, Godzilla wouldn't even consider that it's a thing to even be worthy fighting. Unless Siren Head grew to be Godzilla's size, then Godzilla wouldn't really care at all. Just like there are many situations where humans are preyed on by other humans, and there are some accidents that happen, animals attacking humans, Godzilla Godzilla doesn't see it as significant. He probably doesn't even see it the way that we don't really recognize or pay attention to the societal pressures and woes of ants. I say that we are more like Godzilla's bees because we do produce something that he really likes. Albeit he doesn't really mess with it that much because he can get copious amounts of it free-flowing right from in the earth, and that's the radiation. I think he also understands that his ecosystem is important, and he can't just kill off the humans. He's realized that as we become more technologically advanced, that we are kind of annoying, but we can be useful in certain situations when he needs a distraction or for us to help him with another kaiju. He knows that we're there, he acknowledges us, it's not like he can't see us at all. We've seen that in the 2019 movie. There was also a scene with the submarine where he was facing off, and I think he knew the humans were in there, and he was basically like, get out of my way. We have basically become to him what Mothra is to him. And so that's as far as that goes. But since a lot of the creepy Trevor Henderson creatures seem to attack humans on a case-by-case basis, there really isn't any reason for Godzilla to be alerted. And even if we had the ability to communicate to him our woes about what was happening, he would see it as inefficient. He would say, why would I care about 3 humans who are getting abducted by something with a head that looks like a pair of horns? Pretty sure he wouldn't storm through a whole city just to find that thing, unless it was titanic and majorly a problem to him as well. I know people don't like hearing that, but that's really the case based on what we've observed so far. We have to keep in mind that Godzilla at his core is still an animal. Now, where I do think this changes is for a specific group of Trevor Henderson monsters called the Giants, the Storm Creatures, or the Titans. There are creatures out there in Trevor Henderson's universe that are monstrosities. If these things actually exist on our plane of existence and Godzilla can see them as well, most likely he would attack them. Now, a lot of these creatures, based on what I've read, I've not finished reading upon all of them as I'm still learning about Trevor Henderson's wonderful, beautiful universe, but a lot of these dudes seem as though their purpose is to yeet humanity off of the earth and into heaven or wherever it is they take them to another plane. Some people dub them angels of God. I think humans will attribute supernatural qualities to anything that they don't really understand. I think that those tendrils are just to eat humans. The reason it seems as though they're being taken into heaven is because usually these creatures are so tall that the fog covers them or the clouds cover them, so you can't really see where the humans they grab are going. Trust me, it's probably going into their mouths or through the other end, however they eat. There are many different iterations of these titans. It almost seems as though they could naturally occur in Godzilla's universe. So a lot of them that show up, especially this creature that looks like an adult bridgeworm, they probably would be treated just like other titans by Godzilla and the others. Maybe some of them would be preyed on, and other titans around would be territorial and naturally fight these titans. Would they win? Maybe so, maybe they wouldn't. Unless that bridgeworm looking thing has some special ability to shoot lasers out of his eyes, many of these titans would fall prey to Godzilla's monsters. Reason being, because a lot of the creatures in the Monsterverse have their own special abilities that they can use for offensive combat against other creatures their size or bigger. Now, I did a video recently talking about where Trevor Henderson's monsters came from, or a theory as to where they might have come from. In one caption for one of the mysterious creatures, it talks about a potential origin theory that mentions 2 moons now appearing and overlapped spaces. Whether these creatures were brought through a portal like in the Cloverfield franchise, or whether they came up from some part of the earth that we don't know of, it seems as though right now the only threat that they pose are to humans. They don't seem to have any abilities that are really superhero status except for their sheer size, at least from what I know so far. But to other titans like Godzilla and Rodan and God knows how many other large creatures, honestly I don't think Trevor Henderson's creatures would fare very well against them. Unless some of these creatures are made of mist themselves and can phase out of reality, some of them would not fare very well against Godzilla and his ability to roast things alive. Now, where it gets scary are the titans that are way larger than Godzilla. From some of the pictures I've seen, maybe it's just me and I don't see any measurements for these creatures, but it seems as though a lot of these creatures are much larger than Godzilla. reaching the heavens and reaching the clouds. Surely there are titans that are much larger than Godzilla from his universe as well, but to be fair, we haven't seen them yet. So I'm gonna go with the biggest kaiju in Godzilla's universe being Ghidorah and Methuselah and Godzilla himself. Since as of right now we can only theorize that there are other bigger kaiju than Godzilla that exist in the Hollow Earth, and we've not yet had a way to actually observe that or prove that on screen, let's just suppose that Godzilla and Ghidorah were the biggest titans so far in their universe. That means it doesn't matter what kind of abilities Godzilla has, unless of course these creatures are also susceptible to radiation, Godzilla can just as easily be killed by these titanic monsters that surprisingly and quite terrifyingly tower over him. We don't know what kind of skin or hide these creatures have, but I'm guessing that because they're so large, they would need very thick skin and thick bones to be able to hold themselves up being so large. It is possible that a lot of them might have some kind of venom, because even though they prey on humans, I suppose that many of them would come into interaction with each other and want to kill each other at some point in time, especially if they all come from somewhat the same environment, and especially if they're competing for the same food source. That means they have ways to defend themselves, and that means that some of them might be venomous. With Godzilla and some of the other Monsterverse creatures being a lot smaller, if they were caught in the tentacles of one of these mist monsters or enigmatic monstrosities, they could be rendered useless. Godzilla of course would fare better than a lot of the kaiju, mainly because he has that surprising ability to regenerate, but let's say one of these creatures hoist him into the air and don't stop flying until they fly up really high to the point where if Godzilla were to get dropped he would surely die, or they step on him or crush him to death, that would be the end of it. I think Godzilla would have the ability to take some of the bigger creatures down, especially if they don't have a thick hide like his, which is totally possible because maybe they never had to since they prey on little things. Because of how big they are, many other creatures that exist in their universe wherever they came from wouldn't even think about taking these creatures on. And maybe the other titans exist on some other part of their land or just give them a wide berth. I think some of the kaiju from Godzilla's universe would definitely be able to take down some of the kaiju from there if they worked together and utilized all of their abilities. It's not so outlandish when you figured in the Godzilla franchise they've done something similar before when these new creatures come into their universe and all the kaiju feel threatened. I did theorize before that these creatures all seem to be based on the same species, but they're just in different skins because they seem to be able to understand each other despite them having different physiology. That doesn't make sense. That does not happen in the real world. A gorilla doesn't sit down and have a meeting with warthogs, or they don't have an actual lion king that they report to in the evening. So the fact that the kaiju in the Monsterverse do this means that they also have a higher intelligence, and that it is possible that their origin all comes from the same place where they speak the same language. At least the higher form of kaiju do. So if they were all to come together and to swarm these creatures, these new enigmatic monstrosities, they probably would get a leg up. Somewhat. Probably be able to bring a few of them down. But I don't see that as a likely case, and I see it being probably a 50-50 situation or a 60-40 situation where the much larger monsters that are possibly larger than anything in the Monsterverse would be able to easily kill the smaller kaiju from the Godzilla universe, despite not being able to shoot any projectiles. Surely these monsters, aside from taking humans as food, seem very peaceful, like blue whales just coasting through the ocean eating plankton, until you attack them and they freak out and they kick you with the voice of God. Now, with their arrival, is it possible that eventually the other kaiju would live in harmony with these creatures? First of all, more realistically, I don't think it would take any time for the kaiju community from the Monsterverse to realize that monsters that are 10 times, sometimes 50 times larger than they are better left alone, because you can die if you try to kick an elephant and you're a mouse. Hey, for all we know, these are the titans that showed up in the Logic-holic Monsterverse adventure audio drama. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, it's a little audio drama series I did on the other channel, Logic-holic, where you can follow Godzilla and his friends as they experience their life, their kaiju version of a life. Every video, every series is a new adventure and new interactions with the kaiju and each other, and the various weird situations they find themselves in. The other thing I considered is the way that a lot of these other Trevor Henderson giants are designed design, some with horns and claws and really tall legs. We see them as a hostile species because they target humans, but I'm pretty sure that if Godzilla or other large monsters, or monsters we deemed really large before, were to attack them, these creatures would most certainly kill them quite easily. Maybe at first after being stung and annoyed by the smaller kaiju. Just like us, if a majority of these Trevor Henderson monsters are really titanic, and then they saw the kaiju from the Monsterverse as a threat, Godzilla and the rest of the monsters from his universe would probably just do what they've always done. Just slumber and go to sleep under a mountain or something, or dive back into the hollow earth and rule down there while these titans rule the surface. Because at that point, with them being so large, the surface of the earth would become their territory. Anyways, that's just the theory. What do you think would happen if Trevor Henderson's giants came into our world or into Godzilla's universe? Do you think it's possible that Godzilla could kill them? Do you think it's a case where size doesn't matter? Let us know in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. This has been Alturi. You ask, we answer.